Hi, Soul Tribe, and welcome to tonight's show. Barry and I are super excited. He will be here in just a moment. We're just fixing some glitches and things. So, yeah, we can't wait to share this show with you tonight. We will be going deeper into the keys of Enoch that we've talked about before, as well as quantum synthetic reality and orb technology. So you guys may also recognize Barry from past shows on my channel and also on Mason Jupiter. So you'll know that he has a background working with psychology. He also has helped a lot of people, I guess, to work through their problems and issues, not just with that background from the medical point of view, but also with his regressions. So he's also a hypnotherapist and does amazing regressions on people. And from what he shared with us on the last shows too, that sometimes messages will come through that not just one person is speaking. So there just seems to be a collective that's also working together behind the scenes. And so we're going to get into that a little bit tonight. We have a couple of little clips and videos and things that we can also share. But yeah, I'm really excited. Barry's already done shows talking about quantum synthetic reality. And here he is. Let me pop you on screen. Thank you for joining us tonight, Barry. I was just sort of recapping on some of what we've discussed on last shows.
Hey, what's up, Soul? Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's good to see you. Sure.
Anytime. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. And just as I was saying to you backstage, and I was saying this to my partner this morning too, it's so rare to have someone that, I know in the past when I've had experiences, I remember talking to you about a dreamlike experience that wasn't a dream with that mist in the air. And I was saying to you, I feel kind of hungover or, a bit of a headache and things. And you're like, that's that temporal asphyxia. I'm like, what? And you're able to, give answers to other experiences. So I really do feel that you are almost like an encyclopedia or an internet of things to do with ET contact and experiences. So you're always one of my favorite people to talk to.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. It's interesting because we've been around. Like you mentioned earlier, we've been around for quite a while now, and I've seen so many things that are interesting as far as information that comes out concerning contact, and some of it I think that is not the modalities are not as wide as they should be, and I think that the narrative of contact itself is being just rewritten, and that is something that concerns me. I think I think everybody sees that. So I appreciate real contactees that are not of one particular cult-like regiment that still come forward. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think that's politically correct and well said without stepping on any particular toes. And it's so important to have discernment. And I think there's a lot of false narratives that have tried to step into this container. And
Yes.
I think this is where we always talk about using discernment is the most important thing. So, yeah, do you want to get into it? Talking about, I'll bring up your website actually, so we can reference, or not your website, your YouTube. So Barry and I were talking, I think it was about a week ago, about some of the older shows that you've done on quantum synthetic reality. And you also talked about orb technology. Do you maybe want to start off by telling us a little bit about whichever one you feel pulled to in these two?
Sure. I'll tell you what. We'll start about hello to everybody in your audience too. I don't mean to be rude.
Thank you for joining us.
Cool. Right on. I'll tell you what. Yeah. We'll start off kind of what gave me an obsession with this, with the whole holographic thing and the temporal type of thing, and it was something that happened to me in my second experience of missing time that I call adult onset experiences, which involved about 4.5 hours of missing time. And during that, I've got an illustration. What happened is this was a craft that it was different than the other one I had been on board. This one was what we would call a pure conscious craft, and it actually manifests around you consciously, then gains density and manifests. And that's something that I'm not accustomed to. But then once actually in there were different. The first room in there was this. Okay, there was it's like this device comes down, and they're putting in my mind the synaptic helmet is what they're calling it. and it's for a frame of reference. They're saying for the contact. All right, and there's like this thing in the back, and it was nothing living that I could especially tell at that, feeling too much at that time, and they're telling me that it's a type of virtual reality, and that it can be used to trick people by lower civilizations. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Okay, but that really tripped me out, and along with going with the fact that there was this missing time that went along with these experiences, but this one too. And since we could talk about this now, since this is something that's so popular in I think in mainstream right now, is that, look, I grew up in the air capital of the world, and there's a huge Air Force base on the side of the town, and I wondered for a minute, man, did I get, did they get me? Did I get got? I mean, seriously, what I mean? And even though I had very much, these were conscious experiences, but the amount of missing time, it didn't add, So, I mean, there's certain things you start thinking like, what if I'm wrong and I got, mind wiped, or things like that you start thinking, and then and what really got me, this is about 93, I came across Dr. Carla Turner and her work, and she had just written, I think it was Masquerading Angels that year, or maybe it was Taken, but either way, she did not have good experiences, but she was the first person in the UFO contactee community I heard talk about virtual reality scenario. And although my experiences weren't like that, it just kept me even more keen on that. Okay. And how far that goes. And that kind of bleeds over into what would be, not just what they're calling people now, they're getting manipulated by that. Sadly, that technology's gotten way higher since then. But it's also about what are they actually using here? And we have these things, this quote unquote, as quantum synthetic environment that is also called a jumper room. The whistleblowers call it jumper room. And the first person that I had heard talk about jumper rooms, quantum synthetic environments, was Andrew Basago. He was the first one and was claiming time travel, things like that. And it seems like since then, a lot of his story has been built upon. But how often do we see that? Anyway, but that's something that I thought was, really very relevant. And when you start dealing with these actual, let's say we can go into the pico science too, and nanoscience, but also pico, we start getting these civilizations that deal with miniaturizing of their technology, and of their civilization itself getting smaller down to the pico. So in that way, I think it's worth, and I hate to sound like a broken record for those that have heard me before, but to really discuss this, we have to talk about the quantum hologram and really what is that? Okay, as far as creation and scientifically. The quantum hologram.
I just want to jump in quickly before you do and say there is a representation I saw, even to do with the technology in the iPhone, where it was getting down onto like a pico level. And I also just want to send you love and healing. Barry was saying he's been a little bit under the weather this week, but he didn't want to miss being here for all of you guys. So yeah, thanks Barry for joining us.
Well. Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're good. When dealing with the pico and thinking of that really seriously, and just taking, for example, the implants that Dr. Lear had pulled out of people that had the 2 miles of carbon nanotubes in them. And that would be probably a civilization that's dealing with nano. That's a lot of carbon nanotubes of something that's almost microscopic. So if you can imagine a civilization that deals with the pico, and then they start creating something like a Dyson sphere, engineering structure, whatever shape it is, over their solar system, okay? And that whole theory, that means they start exploring inner space and doing it a whole nother way. Kind of like Martin Short, you remember that movie Inner Space?
Oh yeah.
yeah, Dennis Quaid. But I mean, but seriously, but when dealing with that, I mean, I think it's very, very, very relevant. And So the quantum hologram, okay, what that actually is deals with black holes, and black holes are actually called makos, magnetically eternally collapsing objects. And what the mako actually is the information that stores the mechanism that stores the information inside the mako, inside the black hole. Okay, and when something happens, like let's say this crystal passes through the black hole, okay, it creates a perfect copy on the surface, on the aperture. And that's the quantum hologram. And in reality, what that does is actually wraps around the mako. And that's why when I say the makos are the hard drives of the universe, the black holes are the hard drives of the universe. That is the Akashic records, the records of space and time. It's wrapped around the black holes. That's why,
and that was the download I got filling into. I was shown a black hole. I know we've talked about this on other shows, but you can actually meditate and connect with these makos or black holes to retrieve information. It's kind of like the universal internet. And it does talk about makos in, I got my notes stuck on the front, in the Keys of Enoch as well. So this is one of mine and Barry's favorites, where you'll find really cool diagrams. Was it I'm trying to think off my top of my head. You said I think it was the quantum synthetic or the orb technology. Was it 219? There was I know I've marked it in here. You had a diagram that you were referencing. Oh, was it 215?
I'll tell you what, yeah, on page 215 and 216. That's right. That's called 216 especially. That's called a tripyramidal Merkaba. Okay, and it's something, yeah, and it's here.
Oh, and the other one you referenced was 219.
219.
Yeah, that's the one where it looks like
that's actually the 5-brain cluster. I'm sorry, that's the Aura station. You're okay. You're getting ahead of me here, but okay, we can just jump right into that if you want. That's way further what I was going to go into, because we got to actually talk about what this is stuff. But if you want to go into that immediately, we're going to have to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff.
No, you go in
cool.
your
However you want to do it.
I'm paying keen attention to like what you said in your other videos, because
I have pages written down for people to look at in Keys of Enoch. Awesome. It is pages 215, 216, which are the Merkabahs and the different stages they go through, bipyramidal Merkaba and also tripyramidal Merkaba. And that's what I've shown. I've seen a ship do that, actually, and I was trying to find the other pictures of it. I'm sorry. And then another is page 219. That's the orb station that we'll talk about, that deals with actually orb technology, okay? But it's called orb station. That's on page 219, and it gives a diagram of what that is, okay? And that there's a reason why I bring that up, is because one of those, look, when you and I met in person, we met somewhere, and I'm not going to just toe around. We met at a place that is out in Washington. It's by Mount Adams, and there's one of those devices, an orb station in Mount Adams.
Yeah.
And it's shooting out an orb that will get in people's, and we'll talk about all that, because I think that's not the only one. I think there's other ones that are functioning that for still from type 1 civilization Earth used to be. I think there's one in Mount Adams. There might be, a lot of people say Mount Shasta. I've never been there. Another one I think is Mount Caligash. Okay. And then I don't know.
Whereabouts is Mount Caligash?
Maybe somewhere around in Bermuda.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but sorry, but we got to talk about what these actually are first.
Sorry, is Mount Caligash around Bermuda? Is that the one that you were saying?
No, that's in Tibet.
Oh, okay.
Mount Caligash, yeah, it's huge, and it looks kind of like a spaceship too when you check it out, but it's really, really active around there. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, so okay, well, all right, we'll go to that. I guess I can't remember where we were. First, we were just talking about the quantum hologram, right? Okay, yeah, so right. When dealing with that, all right, and the reason why you had mentioned that we can actually access those and we can we can connect consciously with those. The reasons why is because they're actually function on something they're calling now quantum conscious waves. All right, and the conscious waves occur actually spherical. All right, and we have things in our body which are called microtubules. And for this, we'll talk about the brain microtubules, which makes up the mirror neuron network. And when we're talking right now, and I'm describing this through the mirror neuron network, you can understand you can see what I'm saying, which is also the same effect as the quantum hologram I just talked about through the quantum hologram. All right. And the thing about these microtubules of the brain is they're spherical, or they're spherical. All right. And so that way we can also access the brain, the makos through the brain waves. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes really a conscious event, and really how much these makos might be actually the hidden fabric of our universes. You know,
that makes sense.
Anyway, but so point being this, all right, we have civilizations that are type 4, type 5 civilizations that truly have started using not just this fabric of space as a power source, but the mako itself as a power such civilizations like that most likely no longer exist, but they still exist within the mako, and can still have communication with us through the divine field and the brain waves. And the divine field is real. I don't care what anybody says. It's very real, you know, and we can definitely feel those right now that are not in tune with it. That's something that's coming out right now, you know, those that are and those that aren't. Anyway, you know,
that's what we were talking about backstage. It's just you can see it. Yeah.
Going into these actually jump rooms, all right, and the quantum synthetic environment. When dealing with these makos that we're just talking about right now, scientifically, they have equations, and I dealt with Rudy Shields. He's the one that told me about this, you know, is that actually they have computations that attach the mako to the atom itself and to the molecules. So we talk about those civilizations, like those brothers that can teleport themselves throughout the galaxy without technology. They're accessing the makos in each individual atom, individual molecule. Okay, so when you start dealing with that, and you start dealing with this type of orb technology, okay, and an orb technology can actually be imprinted into something that is called an artificial holographic planetary domain, all right, is what they call that. And you start dealing with a type of particle synthesis, which will make it more than just being like, you know, a holographic deal like on Star Trek. It becomes much more of an energetic environment, interactive. It changes everything. And, you know, I've done, you know what, I can tell this, I've done quite a few regressions now. And, you know, in one of them, it was with the individual who was being harassed by one of these organizations. And they were taking them out of the gifted program. And with a couple other kids that qualified, taking them to a base and doing experiments on, basically, and having them, and they described to me a type of a goggle that's similar to what they call now, what is it, the Dyson? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Dysonian glasses.
Yeah, something similar to that, but this is bigger, that was more encompassing. And when they put it on, they describe it actually stimulating them to a way, but they're seeing an absolute alien environment.
Wow.
Complete terrain, 100% interactive, beyond virtual reality. You know what I mean?
That's like in Valerian. You know, the sci-fi movie Valerian, and they put on, what is it? They go to a market that looks like it's in the middle of the desert and nowhere. They put on this technology, and all of a sudden this souk market just appears where there's, you know, spices and trade and all these things happening, but it's in another dimension.
Never seen that. Yeah.
Oh, you'll have to watch that, Barry. I think that'll become a favorite of yours.
Yeah, so that, you know, it's, I think, you know, it's a lot to be said about that. You know what I mean? And right now you've got these other technologies that they're dealing with, that's neuro programming and neuro monitoring and doing that to people, that really puts things at a whole nother level. And that's just, I think part of the thing that's being done to, I think, intercept and rewrite, like I said, a lot of the contact experience. And I'm by no means saying that doesn't happen to those people. I've not had experiences like that, and my heart goes out to those that have. But
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more of a narrative than it is a tapestry. We've got to put all this stuff together, because there's civilizations and beings that they're stealing this stuff from, or they're lower ones that they're making deals with, whatever. But we need to deal with the ones that are still with the divine field. And
Yeah,
that's where I
definitely.
think the changing of this planet starts happening.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think this is why this was an important show to do tonight, to even when I was looking in and researching with the Keys of Enoch, and there was a section that you were referencing, and I couldn't help but just keep reading on and on, because that's what this book does. It's like an oracle that you either open it to the page or you get drawn to it. And I started to see information around the Ezekiel wheel, and information about when the Ezekiel wheel appears again, just like it has in New Jersey, that we will start to have people that are on that sort of wavelength or vibration. They will start to upgrade. But it's almost like there's a separation in the people that are, I guess, not ready to come into that, frequency octave or upgrade. They will sort of stay at like a lower resonance or in kind of a different reality. But there is something that happens when you read this book and you hear about this Ezekiel wheel. I think it's also called, is it the Orifem? There's a name for it. But essentially, it's like they come in every period of time in not just our universe or not just our realm, but they go to other places too. And it's like these activations and things take place. So we're actually living in this kind of reality now. And I do feel it's widening the view. And, this is what we see in biblical times. We're literally living in biblical times again.
Well, the thing is, Earth has everything has twin. Earth has a twin.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the Earth that we're familiar with here is, of course, we have consciousness with organisms, organism with consciousness. And the other Earth twin, you have awareness and consciousness without organism, inorganic, inorganic beings. And they're all types of them, and they're very close, and they're all around us. And they're just a vibration like off of us, a frequency. People use that word a lot now, but I mean, they're very, very close. I was discussing, actually yesterday I was doing a show, and I was discussing, it was like the Earth, the only planet of choice, that book. They
Yeah.
describe these, what they call civilizations with the S, and that how many of them are right here on Earth. The first one, like the strongest one, they call Huva, and there are others that they start naming. But that's how I was always taught when I was younger, is that the dimensions of Earth, not the densities, but the dimensions, which more width and breadth, are like the layers of an onion. There's so many here on Earth, and it's just slight, vibration between each of us. When it comes between us and the main twin that this planet has, though, those beings are all around us. The Earthbounds, they get locked up in there. You've got these demonics, these others, I don't know what, tricksters. You got all sorts of stuff going on, midwayers. It's really kind of a trip, and a lot of them honestly are quite hostile. That's where it's we were talking. I think that was you and I maybe last time talking about mentioning the voices. Somebody's
Yeah.
talking about Marinsky. I didn't know about Jerry Marinsky, so I did a video over voices that an ex-client had ran up to me. It's a trip. The clients I worked with, they were teenagers, like offenders. This cat is like trying to show me, pulling out the phone, trying to show me pictures of grandkids. I was like, how old are you now? He's, I'm 39. I was like, oh, God.
Wow.
He said, man, you look really good to be almost 70. I said, man, I'm not almost 70, man. Yeah. But then in the midst of all that, this young man, this man tells me, he says, man, I always appreciated you because you're the first person that told me I wasn't crazy for hearing the voices.
Yeah.
And you said it was coming from, you thought it was coming outside of me.
Yeah. No, I highly recommend Jerry Mazinski's work and MACE method, the method that helps for people that are going through that, or if you've got family members that are whether it's going through schizophrenia or psychosis or hearing voices, MACE methods are a way to deal with it at the core. There's a lot of things, whether it's medications and things, and this is not medical advice. This is for purely entertainment purposes. A lot of things just maybe soften or numb or dull people to tone it down. And it's interesting because these voices, as Jerry Mazinski said in one of his videos, when he was working as I think it was psychiatrist in the prison, he said that these things attached to the people that hear the voices can levitate things and would fling things sometimes around his office. So they have a very supernatural kind of phenomenon power with them. So it sounds like they're coming from perhaps that other twin Earth that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, and from other places, when I do these Earthbound spirit releases, and it was years ago now, when earlier on into it, I started doing it sometimes after maybe I'd done, I don't know how many, but I started getting like one or two and telling me, I heard about you. You heard about me from who? From the others that were here that left before you got here. But they said when you're gone, they're going to come back. And they said, what they say about me, they said you were bad and you could get rid of us. And these are earthbound spirits telling me this that aren't even of demonic.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Or they're being told by these others, you better hurt the people that you're joined with, or you're going to go down to the pit. I said, ask them, what's the pit? I've heard that before. They said, well, I don't know. The earthbound spirit, I don't know, but they say it's even more painful than this. And they're already lost. And every earthbound spirit describes there's a certain characteristics and patterns. One is that it's dark here. It's very dark. And they wind up joining with people. They can still see people. And I don't care what anybody says. So when we transition, we pass, the personality doesn't die. Something about the personality doesn't die. But yet our brain is still, our energy fields are still trying to perceive consciously energy fields the way the brain does. But we don't have a brain anymore. But the personality is still, patterns and behaviors. It's really interesting. And we don't know fully what we are in that way, much more than what we think.
Yeah, the consciousness definitely seems to survive after the body. But it's interesting. I heard something about with the retina of the eyes, and if they shine light into a body that's been, I think, passed for maybe 5 hours, they can almost re-stimulate the consciousness to activate almost like a computer back in the body. And I thought 5 hours is quite a long time. But
I've never heard that.
There was some experiment I read, I think it was last year, I forget who it was by, but it was definitely something to do with activating or shining light into the retinas and then consciousness coming back online. So whether it was they were just testing brain activity or they were getting maybe, readings or EEG come off the brain, but there's something also to do with that lens that we have, because, when they talk about the brain, it's the eyes maybe being the camera that's sending things to the brain, or the brain, or other way around. I think it's the brain maybe creating reality, but the eyes are almost like the lens. There's something to do with it working in unison.
Interesting. As far as, once the body has like truly left the body, what they're doing, I would question. Honestly, I'd have to see that experiment and see it reproduced.
Yeah, I'll have to find that.
I have to see a little scientific method on that one.
I'm gonna have to find that to share with you. Yeah, no, it was fascinating.
But when you start dealing with that, things like that, the ocular nerves, and dealing with, I've tried to express this before that, right now we're talking about quantum synthetic environments. So I've been around really truly in the presence of the biofield of a non-human, that they can project a quantum synthetic environment to you through the optical nerves consciously. They don't need technology. That takes it to a whole nother level when dealing with any of these beings, the ones that can do that. You know what I mean? And it's that. Or another thing, those, I've been around a being that bilocated me through the optical nerves. And I know they have technologies that bilocate during the contact experience. Because I always, mostly when I talk about my contact experience, I talk about the physical ones. I'm like everybody else. I've had some that were astral and more like that. They didn't, you don't think they're fully astral until you realize that there's certain things like I'm not getting sick and I can't touch things, you know, things like that. But I mean, but I used to not talk about those because I couldn't touch things. They weren't as concrete as the physical experiences. But
Yeah.
at the
And
same
that's,
token, I've been on board a craft where I saw people that were there they were transparent. I've seen that more
yeah,
than once. And I know they were in
that's
their
what's
dream
amazing.
body, the energy body. They're not going to throw up like me.
That's what's amazing. That's what's amazing about you, Barry, is, you know, you really do have discernment even around your own experiences. It's not that you just sort of like blurt out anything that's just happened. You really take the time to process it and to try and gain understanding from what's happening. And, you know, I think that we we're in the world where things are being separated right now, where, you know, truth and fiction are definitely being separated.
Yeah, yeah. You know, yeah, I appreciate that. You know, and what's cool is, you know, and I've been saying this since we first met. I was always convinced that about 75, 80% of our population is contactees. It has contact. So in that way, I'm nobody special. You know what I mean? But I am unique, but so is everybody who has contact experiences because they're all different.
Yeah.
So for the most part, you know what I mean? But I think that's what's coming to the forefront now. And people say, you know, and I spoke at a lot of those conferences now. Quite a few. I've been blessed to be invited enough of them. And it's weird when I meet the people that always say they'll say something to. They come up to me and they have that energy on them, that Artron energy that feels like a contactee energy, which shows to me, it makes me know that they've either been around beings that have work around these makos, these black holes, or on
Yeah.
a craft that has, or they've been somehow their cells have been irradiated by that energy, and I can
That was
detect
what
it on
you and
other
I had.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's the people who say, you know, I've not had experiences like yours or nothing. And all I was asking me, are you sure? No, no. You seen a UFO? Well, yeah. I said, the fact that you see maybe a couple times you seen one and you're with a couple people and nobody could see them. You're telling people they're going, where? They look at me going, well, that did happen a few times. I was like, you really need to think about that because a couple of days later, did you have weird dreams? You know, about either people you didn't really know or things, just weird things, weird situations. That's how it happens. There's like a time lag because you're doing consciously, they're accessing not just our subconscious, but our superconscious sometimes. And the superconscious actually, well, let me rephrase that. Our superconscious is recording everything always, and we
Yeah.
can access that. You know, and it amazes me here on this planet why we can't do that. We need hypnosis and things to access that part of ourselves when it's a natural gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the amount of power that we have and the strength that people have, it's incredible, personal power. But we're just deluded of that. Now, like I give examples. So I know you can see.
Yeah.
So you know when you know, I used to when I was younger, I would think I wasn't able to see because I would have books like I don't have that one Geneva Paulson. It's a very beautiful, colorful chakra kundalini book. And you see all that stuff. And since I wasn't seeing all these different colors on people, I see an energy field. And it
Mm.
would be like sometimes a gray, a golden, a whitish, and I see a general field around people. It could be sometimes oval, spherical, or sometimes mushroom-like. The stronger people seem like little mushroom-like. It goes about 6 feet outside the body. Okay, and then I could see the assemblage point, the black spot in the middle of that. I didn't know what that was. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you know, the thing is that sorry, I got so excited I almost got mistracked where I was talking
No,
about there.
I love it. I love that you and I
Um,
always go exactly where we need to. And I'm
um,
just highlighting a couple of questions for you as well. So you let me
oh,
know
well,
whenever you're ready.
that's cool. What I was gonna say was that when you see that energy field on people, though, it's a glow. Don't you
Yeah.
agree? But you
Yeah.
know, when I would look at a baby, I would see on an infant, I would see not just that glow and that, you know, the spherical, but there would be this sheen around it, like this, it was like a coating and it was really bright. And then when I look at a kid, by the time they get about, 15, 16, 17, that sheen, I can't see it. I can still see the luminous cocoon,
Mm.
but I can't see that sheen until down like around their ankles or around their calves. You know why?
Why?
Because we're food. for predators.
Yeah,
We're food for predators, and that's what they do is they swipe and they go back and forth and they give our emotions and rile our emotions, our negative emotions, and they
especially
feed
around
on it.
puberty,
Yeah, my friend
when
Jessica,
that
I tease
sexual
her the
energy
word
starts to
loose.
kick in.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh,
My,
no, I
I
was just
cut out. I'm
saying
sorry.
with what you were saying, like with the loose energy, especially when puberty starts to kick in, that's where we see more, especially with girls, demonic entities or other spirits or archons, whatever you want to call it, reptilian energies too. That's also another common one that yeah, people going through puberty and a little bit older, adolescents, will start to experience whether it's like night terrors or just a feeling or sensation of frozen or paralysis. I've had the paralysis when I was a lot younger, and you can feel things happening to your body, but you know that it's not in the physical because you might be semi-awake while this is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I just got through dealing with actually a couple clients I recently had. It's weird because people that are very advanced are coming to me for stuff. So it's kind of a trip, but it's always interesting because a lot of times somebody will tell me I'll cross over Earthbounds off of them. They're tripped out afterwards. They can't believe they had like 4 or 5 attached because they think I've done my shadow work. All that stuff doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
sometimes
It sounds
other beings
good.
or entities, some of these tricksters can present as, false ego archetypes and that, so that what you're working on might not essentially be your shadow work. It could be programs and things. Yeah.
It's been intense enough that I give this free information out to those people that practice. All right, is because I notice a lot of people don't mention this. Is they're doing this past life regressions, but the truth is, if the person has a bunch of earthbounds attached to them, or even just one real strong one, sometimes you're doing this past life regression, and it's the earthbounds.
Yeah.
Their life, they may have been here for 100 years or something. It's their past life that the person's going through. So I cross over the earthbounds first, then do the regression.
And I think that's good. It's kind of getting them out the
Yeah.
way. This is where I want to chime in and say Barry does have his sessions available. So if you guys want to reach out to him, can you just remind us again what your email is?
It's Barry Littleton13@gmail.com. Thanks. I had actually kind of stopped doing sessions for a few months just on account of it was really cool, but I just want to make sure keep my energy clear and have some things to take care of. And I'm just kind of tripped out amount of people that are doing work on other people and they have a bunch of attachments.
I think that's so important, isn't it? That you have to
I
be
don't want to be one of those, man.
Yeah. Well, I've just popped up your YouTube channel again. And I also want to remind you guys, while you're over there subscribing to Barry's channel, if you want to hit the thumbs up on this video, which helps beautiful girls at Maison Jupiter to bring more shows like this and myself. And also we have, where was it? Tim was mentioning it just before. We have my Aura course available as well in the Academy section too. So you're able to come in here and learn more about how to see and to switch on these spiritual senses and physical or semi-physical senses that we all have. Barry, before we get too far, because I know we're sort of getting a little bit shorter on time, did you want to talk about anything to do with the orb technology? I know you've mentioned, I think it was in one of the other shows, with like the triune type energy or the 3 lights. I forget what the other name was that you used with it.
Do you mean more? I thought more towards the orb stations, maybe
It might have been,
that orb technology. Well, the orb technology is the same thing as that way in the quantum synthetic environment, also. But the thing is, when we start dealing with one of these orbs, and the orbs is actually implanted with that artificial holographic planetary domain. Okay, but then when that orb gets in our biofield, and now that we know scientifically, since the mako can be attached to the atom, the orb doesn't have to be one we can see. It can be microscopic. It gets our energy field and it changes our perception. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because out there at that ranch place, all right. So check it out. I got blown away that first year when we met out there.
Yeah.
Just, and it was the fact I'm not a young cat, all right? I'm not quite as young as you all.
You're only a couple of years older than me.
Still got some juice. You're not the numbers I'm at. You know you're not, and you're in no rush to get there. Anyway, but seriously, but I'm not a young brother, so I didn't, having these experiences just stopped my world. I didn't really expect to really have a lot of those, and I got smashed out there. So much so to where I actually did, when I got invited to speak the following year, I did a regression about a month or so before I went out there, because I had to, maybe 2 months, because I had to know exactly what I was dealing with. I got blasted. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I don't sleep really good, and so I'm always awake. And I was, the little bit of time I was sleeping, I felt like I was going in that mountain, or something was happening on top of the experiences that were just happening consciously, So I do this regression, and I see this crystalline thing inside of that mountain. All right. Then I find it in this book, okay, which is on page 219's Ore Station. And I advise everybody just to read what it says in there. You want to read it, Sol? In the index, what it says about, if you go to the index and look up Ore Station.
Let me get to it.
Here, I'll do it real quick. Ore Stations.
That'd be great.
By the way, my other copy, it looks like this, because when you really read a book, and that's what happens. So I got this one from J.J. Hurtak when I spoke in Vegas, and he signed it, and I asked him about the pyramidal Merkaba. I said, how did you find out about that? He said, the beings, they took me to their planet, and I saw it. And I said, I've seen one too, but it was here. And that man, I had his undivided attention for about 10 minutes. We sat there and talked. Quite interesting. He's an interesting guy.
He is an interesting guy. And there's things written in this that, as a clairvoyant, from birth, there's things in this that he writes about that you don't find in some of those other things, written about auras or written about clairvoyance. Yeah, and the same with Rudolf Steiner's work as well. There's things
this book, I talked about the Uret is a good reference book, but it's nowhere near this one. This one has light codes in it. You can see it. Anyway, sorry, look, I get too excited. Ore stations, network centers for the docking of technology from advanced civilizations capable of travel between galaxies and super galaxies. That's what that says. Now, okay, this device, this Ore station in Mount Adams, what it's doing, okay, is you get certain people, at least, maybe everybody gets around it, and it actually has a field of energy, and it scans your life memories, okay? And then it dispatches some type of an orb technology, and it might be microscopic, that gets in your energy field and pushes your consciousness forward. And in that way, you have people saying, "Oh, I saw Sasquatch out there and it just disappeared," or I saw that, all this stuff going on. Okay, that pushes the consciousness forward. Yeah. And I can prove this. Okay, because the second year that you were there, it was this deal that I see these Caucasian gentlemen doing that appears to be the CE5. That kind of proves what kind of contactee you are. If you better call in a bunch of ships, and it shows if you're strong. Yes, so every presenter had to do a CE5 or one of those. I don't care about that, because for me, it's all fun and games to let those ships come too close, and suddenly you're missing 5-6 hours of your life, and you've been with it. Yeah, it's not really all that fun, even if it's a positive experience. Yeah. Anyway,
a lot of people don't have discernment, and there is dark forces out there. Dark. Some of the ones that people are calling in, especially when it's through anger, in order to manifest them. Yeah. That usually we won't go down that path.
Big time, man.
Definitely, the word we say every show: discernment. Tons.
So I could just blend this into the other one, because you actually somehow convinced me to show that exercise that I made everybody do before we went out there. And honest truth is, I did it just so I would get the advantage, so it would trigger everybody's pineal, so they might say see something or whatever we go out there, because I got one cat saying, "Oh, when I do it, there's 40 of them showed up." when once Greer did it, nobody came. They cleared the skies. I'm like, oh, these guys are really okay. So we did seriously, but when we after doing that exercise, and the cool things about all those conferences is it's not the speakers, it's the attendees that are the gifted people, the ones that should be up there talking before the people that are up there speaking. And there's so many mediums and contactees, everything in that audience, probably 100 people. And a bunch of them were going, oh, what is this? I'm seeing this grid. I'm seeing a grid. It looks like a tic-tac-toe board. I mean, when I say that to you, at least maybe 10 people were saying that.
Yeah.
And I knew it was the field of energy from this ore station. Just food for thought. So that's what I think is, it's cool. And I can only use, that's the only one I've been around, but I know there are other ones. And I think some of us have a certain, you might even have not just the right soul energy and the soul complex or whatever, and also maybe the right bloodline too. We activate those things even more.
She just did a video on this to do with, I so resonated with the information she was talking about. She just did one to do with, with the pyramids and with Egypt. And I think it was Council of Nine she channels was talking about there's certain people. And she said, it's not going to be the people that are sort of more in the ego or out there. It could just be, a school teacher or a lawyer goes to the pyramids. All of a sudden, they're like seeing esoteric symbols. They're like activating, they're receiving codes to unlock things. So it's all to do with our DNA. So I really resonated with the message that she said with that, because there's certain places I've been that I'll see doorways and things open up, like here in Australia with some of the sacred sites. It's not sort of like all bells and whistles. It's like quiet and it's very like unassuming sometimes. But yeah, if anyone hasn't seen that video, you guys should go check it out. Yeah, I think it was an unlisted one. You'll find it through her Facebook.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, we've got sort of around 10 minutes left. It looks like I have to finish at 5 to tonight because I've got something on. Is there anything that you? Oh, before we get too far into that, I had to read out the part that Spirit led me to. So I went into the pages you were talking about in the other videos, and with this one, let me see. It was there was a higher intelligence. Who will select the physical beings who can continue to go on to other planetary worlds where physical bodies are required. By those physical worlds will have been taken these Merkaba vehicles, will have loved and served their fellow man, and with the love whatever species the Father would assign to them. Most physicals continuing in the purified physical form will be used to seed life into their own kind so as to nurture respect for the Adamic, which is like, I guess for people listening at home, this is like we're built on the Adamic, I guess, imprint of man or, humanoid version like Adam. So others will be advanced into higher vibrationary forms corresponding to their level of soul growth. So it also talks about this in connection with planetary or star fields, which most resemble the energies of the Orifem, which is also, it gets into talking about the Ezekiel wheel, it gets into talking about the thrones and the throne beings in here as well. But it does seem like with the Orifem or the Ezekiel wheel, when it comes to Earth realm, and I just have to share a little video so you guys get a visual representation of what we're talking about. Let me just pop this up. Just got to find where it is. Oh, here it is. Okay, so we should have a little bit of sound with this. So this was
wow, I'm shocked here.
Hold on a sec. Let me bring it up on screen.
No, there's something I'm supposed to share. I'm just, it'll probably be the last thing we talk about here because I'm supposed to share something, and the fact you just said that, what you just said, you just brought up throne energies.
Yeah,
amazing. Because I was sitting there, I was like debating. I'm like, I felt like I was supposed to. They're telling me I was supposed to share this, so I would.
I felt that with the throne beings. I'll play this, and then you jump in, and I would love that, Barry.
Everyone starts to look up, like my crew and I have been here in Mendham recording this video that you're looking at right now. We have no idea what it is, if it's a natural phenomenon, because it could be, but this is why so many municipalities are now asking people to reach out and send their videos to them or to experts who might be able to sort out what they're seeing in the skies. But I guarantee there are so many people looking up and making those recordings because this mystery is one that needs to be solved. For now, we're live here in Minden Borough. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay.
You know,
So
that's a plasma craft, high energy plasma craft, and those also make crop circles as well. You know, Jessica Jones, I give her all these blind targets, and one of them I gave her was a blind target of the Woodshire plasma balls that were making that crop circle. They caught it on film, and you know, she got really emotional on that. She's picking up the emotion. They were picking up this. It's not too late for humanity. There's help here, and all this different stuff. And then this whole Galactic Federation thing started coming through. And it's a blind target. And you know how I laugh at that name, but I mean, that's a whole other thing. But I mean, but when dealing with actually those plasma balls create actually they're high plasma, and they create actually not just microwaves, but something called an electron avalanche happens within the seeds that are in the real crop circles. And those seeds become like after electron avalanche, they have like double the resilience. They make like double the product, and it changes things. And I think in some ways, crop circles are showing us how to combat food shortage as well. And that's some of the work that Dr. Livingood was doing, showed that. So
yeah, they're definitely bringing messages to humanity and consciousness. And as we know, you know, symbols and geometry speak to the unconscious or the subconscious mind. So we need to put ourselves into a state of whether it's theta or getting into gamma to be able to receive the messages and tune into it. All the information is there. And I saw Tim say a real angel form. So when we were reading about this section, and I want to give for you guys that are playing at home, it is page 222 is where it starts to talk about it. So it talks about us moving into other dimensions when these Orphem or the Ezekiel wheel starts to appear. And yeah, that one that they showed on the news did look more like a plasma. And sometimes you'll see the Merkaba. I had the best Merkaba photo, but it was on a really old camera before we sort of got more into digital. And I wish I could find it. It was a rainbow Merkaba inside of an orb that was just near my daughter and her friend playing when they were maybe like 3 years old. So that we're talking over 20 something years ago. So unfortunately, I don't have the photo, but yeah, if you guys read page 222, section 59 to 66, and also 77 to 82, it will tell you all about this stuff that we're talking about. And do you want to get into the throne side of things?
Well, it's not even that. This is just heavy. I'm going to share this, right? And this is one of the bad key right here. See, I can. This is a great one here. Okay, this is key 111 on page. It starts on page 107, but the ones I'm going to turn you on to is page 108. Okay, key on page number 8, key number 12. Okay, through key onto the other page, which is going to be key 31 on the other page. Okay, and what you have on page 108, 12 through 15, you have a summoning technique. Okay, and on part 2 is on page 109 is a part 2 of that's the summoning technique. It involves taking your crystals and putting them in a David Merkaba.
Is this the Ermin and Thurman crystal?
And it actually using pranayama breaths too, to actually, and it uses what are fire names, fire letters, okay, which are actually technically Hebrew words. I knew somebody that actually taught Hebrew, and they tripped out and they were seeing the words. So we're not supposed to say these ones, but they're ones that are, they're fire letters, so they've got vibratorial resonant.
And I think
okay, and so you use those techniques to summon it, and what happens is you'll actually start seeing heat, and you'll start being able to see light beings moving around in your room. It's a trip. So bless the technique before you do it. And I've got
to send you a copy of this as well. This is my old meditation teacher who unfortunately has passed. And this is the list of the Ermin and Thurman crystals.
You know the Ermin Thurman are actually chambers in the earth, right?
And it has them in here as well, mentioned a few times. in the Keys of Enoch. And I didn't realize at the time, because I didn't have the book and I was a lot younger, just exactly what she was teaching us. So it was pretty cool getting activated using those grids.
Lord, sorry, I'm trying to find where it is actually on the pages where they give a diagram of the human body and the fire letters that go along, the fire names, excuse me, that go along, sacred names that go along with the body part. Okay.
And that was in one of the color picks, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, God, why I can't find it is probably because I can barely hold this book together. I should be looking through the other one. This thing is this thing is better days. The binding is cooked, man. But anyway, I advise everybody please check that out. Again, that's page 108 and page 109. It's a great technique. It works. And I'm really into the techniques that if you have personal power, once you put the energy towards it, they yield third dimensional results. I enjoy that. That made me, when I was younger, I would jump from technique to technique because I was looking for the one that yielded the greatest results. Something like the Gate of Power presented by Castanet and the Great Walkers. That was a powerful one. You know,
I think we should do another show on techniques and things and talk about that one a bit more in depth, as well as, I don't know whether it's something we want to share totally, because some people might not be ready for it, because these techniques and things can change your life and can blow open portals, essentially. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's always so much fun to have you here. And like I said, not only are you a good friend, but you're one of my favorite guests to have on.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope we addressed the stuff you wanted to, and I didn't get too carried away and talk about stuff.
It was so fascinating. Yeah, and I'll probably clip this one up into some smaller videos as well, because there's some really amazing moments where you're talking about some of the technology. So they're always good to share out the little smaller clips as well. But yeah, the audience is just showing their love and appreciation throughout the comments that I've seen tonight. So thank you everyone so much for watching. And I just want to pop up Barry's YouTube for you guys to go on over to. So definitely go subscribe there, because he does mention, and you've done the video on quantum synthetic reality and on orb technology. So you'll find that in his video list. And thank you so much for watching.
Under playlist, time travel playlist, that should be under that playlist.
Oh, sure.
Time science playlist, yeah.
So you guys will find that on here. And I also want to make sure to remind you that we have so much happening over at Mace on Jupiter as well. So us girls have some readings available. Please use discount code Jupiter to save 10%. And don't forget, we've also got the new moon activation, and we've also got the Academy. So thank you again so much to everyone for watching, for showing your love and appreciation in the comments to Barry and I. We really do appreciate you guys spending time with us. Thanks, Barry.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Phil. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. See you. Bye, everyone.